Welcome to the TheUnraveled.Podcast. My name is Alina.
And my name is Nina. And today we want to talk about social media.
Okay.
So, social media is a huge topic, but primarily I want to talk about how people present themselves online. Highlight reels versus authenticity versus it seems like every other thing you see you're being sold to, and how it kind of what was created to build relationships is actually doing the opposite. So, what are your thoughts when it comes to, in our industry, building a brand, but then also maintaining authenticity at the same time, and the challenges that come into that? Are there some things that you guys do intentionally to both build your brand, but then stay relevant and approachable and authentic with the client?
So I guess let's talk about the challenges first, because I think the reality is when people are posting on social media, they're only no one goes and posts the negative side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think it's practical, and I don't think it's something that people even think to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're posting the lavish side of things. I know even for myself, like, I love to travel. I'm posting the lavish side of my traveling experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not posting about the closings I had to have to get the money to go to travel,
Mm-hmm.
or the planning for that, or
Mm-hmm.
the finances. I'm not talking about any of that kind of stuff. I'm just posting the beautiful reels that shows where I am and how much fun I'm having and all of that kind of stuff. So I think it's just in general difficult to portray I wouldn't say an authentic. It's what am I trying to do? You know what I'm trying to say?
I guess it's probably difficult to show the more vulnerable side.
Yeah.
Or maybe the side that's less glamorous. Because you do want to be, it's only natural to be perceived. You want to be perceived as successful or to be living a great life. But then the truth is that sometimes there's things that come up that we don't share because it's not impressive, or maybe it's embarrassing, or maybe it's hard, or maybe it's stressful.
But it's also not the social norm.
Correct.
Either.
Yeah. But I'm starting to see a little bit, and I believe it is true, that if you're willing to intentionally share certain things that may not be picture perfect, or I think people relate to that because that's real life. I mean, in the last couple of years, life has been so crazy for most people, whether it comes to, the real estate market or the economy, health, COVID, all that kind of stuff, that people have been through some hard things.
Right.
And they gravitate towards people that are maybe more
relatable.
Yeah.
And I also think I think it also could have to do with the platform you share those things on.
Mm-hmm.
TikTok is more forgiving on what you share. I feel like on TikTok you can share whatever you want to put. Whatever you want to put. I feel like that crowd is more forgiving. They're more relatable. They want to see authentic, and people are used to showing their authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, no. Instagram, maybe 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's really the platform that gives people the confidence to feel vulnerable about certain things. Because when I'm scrolling on TikTok and I'm looking at things on social media, all I see is vulnerability. I see people being honest about their finances. I see people being honest about their relationships and what they're going through. Mm-hmm. People crying on TikTok and pouring their heart out. But on Instagram, I don't see that. Mm-hmm. On Facebook, I don't see that. So I think it's about the platform too.
Yeah, it's definitely true. There's different also generations that are...
That is so true. So true.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I've noticed that it's an older generation that's more on Facebook, and then you have a mix of millennials and Gen X and some boomers that are on Instagram.
It's about 50-50 on Instagram.
And so I think that plays a role into it too, how receptive the audience is to certain... And that's why I think Facebook is a little bit more sterile, because it's primarily a lot of boomers that are using that. And then, you have business pages. I mean, I'm not a boomer and I'm on Facebook, but I'm not necessarily on there to get my life updates or anything like that. And I think they like to see that more polished. But I am trying to work on being more vulnerable and sharing like the behind the scenes of things, or the stories behind what actually happens, and kind of open the door for other people to see, what does it really mean to be in real estate? Or what does it really mean to be a woman that has a business, or, to be our age in this time, and all this kind of stuff. And sometimes you're going to say things that people don't want to hear, but I don't know.
And I would like to, in some aspects, like I thought about doing a TikTok on real estate agent finances, Because one of the things that we have to deal with in real estate is the minute you put something under contract, you have to still get that deal to closing.
Absolutely.
And then while you're doing that, you still also have to hustle for the next deal. So you have income the next month.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 month you may make $20,000 and the next 3 months you may make $0.
Yeah.
So how does your finances look like for those other months that you're not making any money, and you have to rely on your savings for that?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's part of being vulnerable. And I was like, maybe I'll do that TikTok, which I am actually going to at some point when I have time to, but I think I would do that on TikTok, but I probably wouldn't do it on Instagram or Facebook.
I think it needs to be talked about, right? And that's a perfect example of something that across the board is a problem for people, because you're right. Sometimes they'll make a big check and they think, oh, let's go on vacation, let's go shopping or whatever, not realize, oh, I have to set aside money for taxes. I have to set aside money for my broker. Oh, there's no guarantee that I'm going to make a sale next month or even the following month.
I have to set aside money for my finances next month. Like this month, I didn't have any closings. Wait, what month is this? My bad, it's May. In April, yes, April I didn't have any closings, but I had a bunch of closings in March. Mm-hmm. So I had to set aside money from my savings to cover all my expenses this month, to then take that time to work on the next deals that I want to have for May and June.
And it's thinking like a business owner, because it's the same thing across the board. Sometimes your business will generate more income and sometimes it will generate less income. But then on average across the board, you have to categorize and prepare. I mean, that's just being a smart business person.
Correct.
But people don't want to talk about it. They just want to, oh, look at this, fancy this.
Right,
or,
right.
And sure.
And I travel a lot, and all I post is me traveling all the time. So people don't see like, oh, I actually had to plan this stuff out.
Yeah.
Like it's not like I'm, getting a check and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna immediately go spend this and all these travel plans that I have. No, I strategically planned this stuff in advance, because I realize 1 month I may not have any money, or I may not make money that month, and I have to pull from my savings to cover my monthly expenses that month.
But I think it could be encouraging and cool for people to see that even if there are months that are better than others, you can still have a fabulous life if you plan accordingly.
Correct.
That's the biggest takeaway that people need to understand. It's not about who makes the most money or not, but how do you plan? How do you invest and manage? Man, there's so many agents I know, they make a check and then it's gone the next day.
I was just about to say that. And it's funny because I'm like, I grapple all the time with, do I want to be responsible or do I want to live like paycheck to paycheck? And I'm like, both of these lives sound fun, because I'm being completely honest here, because the paycheck to paycheck life, you are living your best life. You're living to do whatever you want to do. And I have friends like this, or just, whatever. I'm like, you're living your best life. I love seeing these people live their best life. Mm-hmm. And they are living paycheck to paycheck, but they don't care. You figure at the end of the day, they figure it out. And then I have like the responsibility life where, you're saving money, you're trying to accomplish a goal here, and you're still having some fun, but not as much fun as the people that are living paycheck to paycheck. I'm like, maybe I'll just go blow all my savings and go travel. Like, I'm having a hard time deciphering which one I want to do, to be honest. And I'm being so honest here because I really just enjoy life. I want to live my life to the fullest. So what does that look like for me? Does that look like me living paycheck to paycheck, or does that look like me having a savings account and having some stability in my life for emergencies? Like I just had to pay $3,000 for a random surgery that my dog had to have. Yeah. So like if I didn't have a savings, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Mm-hmm. So, but if I was living paycheck to paycheck, my dog would be dead.
Yeah. So think about it that way. Oh my God. But you know what? This is what people need to talk about, because I'm sure at least 50% of agents go back and forth with this very thing. Yeah. Right? Because it's the freedom you have working for yourself is amazing.
Yes.
So it's either carefree paycheck to paycheck, or you have to have systems and plan for emergencies.
Right.
Especially if people are relying on you. But you're right. It's kind of like you were able to do certain things and take care of your dog. Is that like the most fun thing to do? No. But you were able to. So it's just like,
it's a hard decision. It's it's honestly really hard. And I feel like, and don't get me wrong, there was a point in my life where I literally was living paycheck to paycheck, which I could care less. I was living my best life. And I also had no responsibilities. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have anyone to take care of, which I still I have my dog to take care of. But anyways, the reality is that life I loved. I still love that life, and I still love the life that I live now. I forgot where I was going with this conversation.
Oh, no, you're saying that you used to be like paycheck to paycheck and you were loving life, but then now it's a little bit opposite, but you're still loving life.
Yeah, but also like but whenever I open up my other business, I realized like there's going to be months that because of the other business that I have, it fluctuates like real estate as well. Like it's not very consistent income. So I had to realize like if I'm going to have this other business, I have to be a little more responsible with my finances to be able to sustain that other business for the months that it doesn't produce.
Yeah. And I think being on social media is important, but there's consequences to the content that we put out there. There was a video that recently came out where somebody who is in the real estate industry, they're, an influencer, they partnered with a corporation that we all know doesn't necessarily have the best interests of realtors and consumers. And I was just thinking, sometimes is it worth taking that paycheck to just say yes to those corporations and industries and
that you really don't agree with?
Yeah, so you don't agree with them, and then also like if that corporation came to me and offered me a sponsorship, I would turn them down. And could I use their money? Sure, but I don't believe that they're good for the market or the consumer. And so that's where social media really is a dangerous place too, because you see these people that like and trust making this content, and people who don't know. So let's say you just have someone who's maybe not in the industry, they're a home seller, home buyer. They might see that video and believe it and not realize that they're leaving $50,000 on the table.
That's true.
So that's where maybe people that's
actually a very, very good point.
You or I feel like it's our responsibility to educate people and try to help them, because the corporations are trying to educate people, so where is the other side of it? Where are the advocates for the consumers? Where are we coming in to say, hey, you could do this if you want to. It's a free country. But then just letting you also have these options as well. But
that's a very good point.
I don't know.
But also when you do content like that, content like that for money that you probably really don't even support or believe in, but you're just doing it to get a paycheck. What is that setting you up for your brand and allowing other people to think about yourself and who you really are when, a couple months ago you were talking about how you disagreed with it, but now you're supporting it because you got a paycheck for it. So then what does that show your audience?
Yes. To me, it shows, so I can only speak for my generation. Anytime we see something that's a sponsored post, immediately, usually we will question the legitimacy and authenticity.
All day.
And then by default, we look to the creator and we're like, nah, you've been bought or you're a sellout. Whether they really are or not, we just assume that because anytime something's sponsored, we all know. If you're on TikTok, every other video is sponsored. Right. What is going on, But that's why we need to get out there and tell people what the truth is.
Have some real authentic content. Which honestly, I feel like it's hard to do because again, like it's not the social norm depending on the platform. Yeah. And I think our mind automatically goes to the fun, luxurious stuff than what's
reality.
Than what's reality and what's makes us vulnerable.
Or what gets you to be able to enjoy. Those, those things. That's true. The traveling, the luxury things. Because, we all have these goals and lifestyles that we're working on and have, but we really didn't start there, and we have to consistently do these things every day in order to be able to reach these goals and what that actually looks like. You'll see these real estate coaches go online and say, I've sold X amount of blah, 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 and buy my course. What I actually want to know is, where did you come from? And how did you actually get to this place? Don't just sell me your numbers, but share with me the hard times, the good times, the struggles you had, all that kind of stuff. Not just the highlight reel. There's so many highlight reels.
I agree.
You know what drives me nuts?
Enlighten me.
When I see a post on Facebook and it's some couple and they make this post, the smoochy, over the top, nonsensical, romantic post sharing information that is TMI, and then like 2 weeks later they're divorced.
I have seen that. I've seen plenty of plenty of those as well.
And I'm thinking, what was the point of this? What was the point of these paragraphs of obviously, I mean, why?
For the views, for the sponsorships, in hopes of sponsorships.
No.
Who knows?
Well, when it comes to brand, right? Because I know your brand is awesome and you've been working on that for a long time.
I appreciate that.
And like, when I think of your brand, I think of obviously the colors, but then the elegance, and it's branded in a very luxurious way.
Thanks.
So when it comes to like video content, you guys are going to have to figure out how to do that.
So I know I haven't done much, which I'm actually kind of planning and kind of looking into, because there's a lot of other content that I want to do when it comes to real estate, personal, and just a wide variety of things. We haven't done a lot of video content. I've mostly kind of just focused on my personal branding as me, and not necessarily so much the brand of my company. I know for like my property management company, I've been working on a lot of branding for that lately, and that one's more, that branding isn't as elegant. It's more like fun and vacation-y, because it's a vacation management company. So I've been doing a lot more for that lately than I have like my real estate branding.
Well, I mean, it's all a part of the process.
Correct.
You know?
Correct. So I've got my personal brand I got to work on. I got my management company, my real estate company branding. It's a lot.
See, this is
it's
why
a lot of stuff.
This is why you can't live paycheck to paycheck.
I know. I guess that answered that question.
Well, I think that wraps up our time for today. Thank you for joining us. We release a new podcast every Wednesday. You can listen to us or watch us wherever you listen to podcasts, and we will see you next week.